All right, and we are recording right now. All right. Hello, guys. God bless. Dios les bendiga a todos. Today, we're going to be looking at how to get started with Lightroom. Okay. I know a lot of us, especially church photographers, we get intimidated by, these programs and stuff like that. I speak from personal experience. So, it was definitely a little scary diving into Lightroom and Photoshop, but I am here to, share the message that it's not that bad. It's super easy, and today we're just gonna go over a couple basic things, right? And yeah, let's just get started right away. I don't want to waste any more time. So um, first things first, you're gonna open up Lightroom, right? So let me just figure this out. Give me a second. Okay, so press this. Okay, got it. Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. That was cool. All right, so I already have Lightroom opened up. Shout out Juan Carlos here in the first photo, right? So I already have Lightroom opened up here, and the cool thing about Lightroom is if you come to library right here, right? I already imported these photos, so like obviously I'm not gonna do it again, but if you click import, right here in the bottom left, um, here on the left side you have a panel, your source panel, right? And you have different, you know, uh, obviously sources on your computer. Um, Everybody knows their, local C drive, which is I don't suggest saving anything on your C drive. Your C drive should be always empty. That's not the case with this computer, but you know, that's my advice. C drive always empty. Then we have a D drive, which is our backup, um, and then we have a backup to the backup, right? And then here I was able to add Google Drive. So um, maybe you ask, why would you want Google Drive in your Lightroom? Well, for us, I know here in New York, when we do a lot of like Sona events or like zone events, um, we mainly share those photos via Google Drive, and so instead of downloading those from Google Drive and then importing them into Lightroom, you can just import them straight from Lightroom, right? So if I click my drive, right, it shows me all of my folders that I have on Google Drive, so I can edit pictures straight off of Google Drive. I don't have to import them into my computer and then import them again into Lightroom, right? So that saves a lot of time because sometimes fast internet is not, available. So, and we're shooting raw. So a lot of these files are huge. And I will speak on RAW versus JPEG in a future video, but for now, let's continue with Lightroom. Okay, so here on the source panel, obviously you'll select wherever you have your photos. So even if you plug in like a SD card reader, right? Like it'll pop up here. So you you just select the source where your photos are coming from. In my case, it's coming from Google Drive, and then I recognize this folder, the raw folder. So cool. But I already imported these photos, so I'm not gonna do it again. But for this, so for the sake of this video, I'm just gonna keep going. Um, and then it's gonna load up. Now, depending on your computer and the specs and how powerful it is, um, the times will vary, right? Also, if you're dealing with like raw photos, like these are highly detailed, highly um, big file sizes. So you know keep that into consideration when you're scheduling your editing time, right? So so far so good, right? Not too scary. We hit library, right? We hit library right here. Then we hit import down here on the left, and then we select our source, right? Okay, cool. Once we finish importing, I will say though, hold on, before I even do that, let me show you what I mean. When you select your source, right? Okay. Don't crash on me. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, good. So let's say you select your source, right? I'm gonna select this one just for the sake of it. Um, Once you have all your photos checked out, right? Once you have them checked out, um, you want to come to the bottom right here, on the bottom right, and hit the import button, okay? Because if you hit anything else, if you hit done, it's not gonna import, okay? So once you select your source and the photos, you hit import on the bottom right, okay? Again, I'm just gonna press cancel because I already have photos imported. And now you are in Lightroom, right? You are officially in the library view, in the library screen. Here you can, view your photos. You can view it like this or like this, using this screen here. This is a compare view. Um, I never use this mode, so don't even. I mean, experiment if you want, but I don't really use it. So I mainly use this and that, the grid, right? And you get to see all your photos here. Cool. So now, what do we do now? Okay, so we can go into the develop tab right here. See, right now we're in library. On the top right, you're gonna see library, develop, map, book, slideshow, print, web, and a little cloud icon. You're gonna hit develop. A shortcut for this is hitting W. Keep in mind when you hit W, um, it's just gonna start. It's gonna give you the white balance tool automatically. So if I hit W, um, it gives me like a little droplet right here. I don't know if you see it. It gives me a little droplet. That's just the white balance tool. So like if you click it right and you see that the thing changes color, don't freak out. It's just the white balance tool. So you see like right there, I clicked on his face and it turned the whole thing blue. Just hit W again and then like find like a neutral color. So like white, gray. In this case, I'm gonna choose the white and it changes back. Right? Cool. So now we are in this screen, right? This is the develop screen. So on your on your left side, you're gonna see. Let me switch back to thing. Okay. Uh, Come on. There you go. So on your left side, you're gonna see your presets, right? Your preset view or window, and then on your right side, you're gonna see your developing tools. Okay, so let's switch back. ¿Cómo se hace? Let's see. Okay, cool. Let's switch back to Lightroom now. Okay, so like I said, left side is presets and your navigator and all of that fancy jazz, snapshots, history, collections. And then on your right side, you have all of your editing tools. So like, your color correction, your exposure, healing tools, etc., right? Um, with presets and stuff, like sometimes it's good to have. Sometimes they don't work. Like this kind of works, but not really. And this is just like too orange for my taste. You can mess around with the presets as well. Like you click this arrow and just okay, stop. No, never mind. No, stop it. Okay. Um, let's not play with the presets. But here I have Olam presets just cause like for my church, um, the lighting is pretty controlled, so like nothing really changes. So we have a preset that kind of works for us here every time. And then I have Queens One, which also their lighting never really changes. Queens Church lighting never really changes. So, and that happens to a lot of our churches, our churches, right? Like, um, it's a controlled environment, so like there's not really much, you know, lighting effects, right? And so that helps us keep a consistent, preset. And of course, there's always going to be adjustments that you're going to make depending on the photo, but for the most part, you know, it stays the same. So that's enough of the presets, right? Let's get into the fun stuff, which is the developing tools. So the first thing you're gonna see is like a histogram, right? Basically indicates how well your exposure is. You don't really need to know much about it. Like sometimes the histogram looks different, even though your exposure is really good. So like, let's say for example, this picture. Like this picture is saying that it's like too hot on the on the highlights, which I guess, but like this is good exposure, So use this as don't use it as a as a crutch. Like use it as just another point of reference. Sometimes you're gonna see. Let me see if I can find a photo that it's just like a perfect, just a perfect, I guess mountain. There's a nice curve to it. Let me see. No, shout out hill. Maybe one of the pastor. Okay, like this, it has healthy peaks, right? And you could tell by the photo, like there's nothing too dark, nothing too bright. This is really good exposure. So yeah, that's the histogram, right? So, and if you hover over it, you're gonna see blacks, shadows, exposure, highlights, whites. So it gives you a guideline as well. All right, cool. Underneath that, you're gonna see your camera settings, right? ISO 1250, 50 millimeter lens, at f2.8 at 1/200 of a second. So pretty pretty good settings here that we're working with. And then right underneath that, you're gonna see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tools. All right. Right now, we're only going to focus on the first one, which is called the edit panel, right, or the edit view. And from here, you're gonna see basic, tone curve, color mixer, everything that you see on the screen. Excuse me. What is basic? All right. Basic is gonna let you like once you click on basic, right? Click on basic is gonna drop down, and you're gonna see 3 buttons: auto, black and white, HDR. Don't even worry about those buttons right now. Let's focus on these other sliders that we see. Um, these are what gonna give us maximum control over our photos, right? And we're gonna use this photo as an example. Okay, so um, before we even get to editing, what I like to do is I would go through my photos, right? So from the very, very beginning, and I start judging them, right? So if I really like this one, I'm gonna press number 5. It's gonna rate it as a 5-star photo, right? And if I don't like it, I'm just gonna press number 1, and it's gonna set it to a number 1, 1-star photo, right? And then if once I finish once I finish going through all of my photos and rating them 1 through 5, I usually just use 1 and 5 because it's either I really like it or I don't like it. There's no in between because we don't. Well, I try not to post like mediocre stuff. So like either it's either we're gonna post it. If we're not gonna post it, it's a 1. Like I don't even want to waste time with 2s and 3s and 4s. Like it's just 1 or 5. That works for me. You can do it your way, right? So once I rate all of my photos accordingly, down here in the bottom right corner, you're gonna see filters. What I like to do is I like to press on all 5 stars, right? And then here it says rating is greater than. So obviously not. We're gonna put rating is equal to, and then once you do that, all of your 5-star photos are gonna show up, right? And yeah, and then you just start editing, right? That way you don't have to go through every single photo, right? So, but in this case, we haven't edited that. So let me just turn off the filters right here. Cool. So let's go back to that picture of the pastor right here. Awesome. So we have a very good, very well exposed photo here, and we are going to start editing, right, using the basic panel. Okay. So um, the first thing you see is temperature. Temperature is gonna help you reflect the, you know, quote unquote, the temperature or the color of the room, the natural color of the room. It's pretty close here. Long Island is pretty, it has like, this was at a Long Island church, and their lighting is really blue, right? So, we're gonna, you know, that's actually perfect right there, I think. Use your better judgment. You know, this is like, if you want, experiment. Go all the way to the right. I mean, to the left, and then go all the way to the right, and start being a little more stylistic. If you wanted to do like a little more warm, you could like, you know, leave it like right here, right? That still looks great, right? But in this case, I want to actually reflect what we saw in the church. So I'm gonna go more towards the blue side, right, like right around there. Honestly, that seems perfect to me. You don't have to change it every time. The same thing applies to all of these sliders. If you feel like you don't need it, then you don't have to use it. But it's good to know, like, what they do. So again, experiment. So right here, I'm gonna memorize -3. So let's see what happens. Well, it turns to green, and then it turns to purple, and then like you just find the in between, sweet spots and stuff, which for me, -3 was fine. So I'm just gonna change it to -3. Cool. So we adjusted our temperature. We already did step 1. Awesome. Uh, Next up, exposure, contrast. Well, I don't really like to touch those things until like the very, last. So I deal with, um, my blacks, whites, shadows, highlights. And then if I absolutely need to raise the exposure, then I will. But if I don't, like in this case, I don't think I do. Um, I might I might do it just a little bit to brighten up the photo, but I don't think I need to. So let's go to work. Blacks always got to be blacking. I know it's a weird like term, but blacks always got to be black, right? So uh, I'm always going to start by bringing down the black just a little bit, or to taste, because it creates like really strong, really dark blacks, and compared to like the white on the wall and everywhere else, the light reflections, it's gonna really give a nice thick contrast without having to touch this contrast slider, right? So I think I'm satisfied with that amount of black. Let me right there. That's fine. Cool. I also gotta look out for like parts of his like neck and like uh I probably won't use this photo, but we're just using it as an example to edit, right? Um, so just keep in mind of those things. Um, so now we're gonna adjust the whites, and as the black needs to be black, the white needs to be white, right? So I go the opposite direction with the whites, and I make sure that those whites are nice and popping, right? That way it adds a natural brightness to my photo, which is right there. I think that's fine. So far, so good. If you want to like go and before and after, like do a before and after kind of thing, I don't know what button to press here, so I'm sorry for that. But if you're using a keyboard, let me switch back here. If you're using a keyboard, it's this button right here. It's the backslash, I guess. Let me go closer. Hold on. All right. It's this one right here. I don't know if it's focusing. Yeah, it's this button right here. All right. So I'm gonna I'm gonna switch back right here, and we're gonna see the before and after, right? This is after, this is before. After, before. After, before. After, before. You see how the before looks, it just looks flat. I mean, it's a good image, right? But like it just looks flat and it just needs color, right? And we haven't even touched um vibrance and saturation. Like this is just with the highlights, shadows, whites and blacks, right? So we've this is this is fairly a good improvement on the photo, right? So right now we just adjusted the whites, shadows. Shadows, you could either dip the shadows and make it really punchy and dark like this, right? Um, in my case, I'm not gonna keep it that dark. Um, maybe, actually, maybe. I think that's fine right there, right? I think that's totally fine right there. So I'm gonna keep it just like that. And then the highlights, depending, most churches, the highlight part of your photos is usually the background, right? Usually most churches have like, at least our churches, they have like white backgrounds, gray backgrounds, or their walls are really bright, right? So in this case, like it depends on how much of the background do you want to see, or how much of those bright parts of the photos you want to see. So like for example, if I bring the highlights all the way down, right, you kind of see more the lines, right, of the ceiling, right. You see these like shadows pop out a little bit more. You kind of even see the little details on the wall, right here. I totally forgot that I could zoom in here. Um, but yeah, and versus if I bring them all the way up, it blows those things out of proportion. So like you won't see as much detail here, and even here. Well, you kind of still see the little dent, but like not as much as when I bring it all the way down, right? So in this case, I don't want to bring those details out because they're kind of like defects, right? So I'll just bring the highlight up a little bit, right? And also notice, right, as we change the settings or as we move the sliders from the blacks, whites, shadows, and highlights, your histogram also adjusts, right? So this is before, after. Again, let me move the highlights real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Like you see, the more I move the highlights, the more the highlights on this side like move around. So yeah, don't don't always depend on that histogram though. Always trust your eyes more than a graph, right? The graphs be bugging sometimes, to use a some New York lingo, you know. Uh, so yeah, let me actually bring up the highlights a little bit more. All right. Okay. Cool. So again, let's do a before and after right now. This is after, and this is before, after, before, after, and this is only using temperature, highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. Like we haven't even used the whole potential of this panel, right? Of this drop down menu. So so far so good, I would say, right? Now, should I expose this a little bit more? I think I will, just because there's some parts like here, like it's just a little too dark, and I'm not even talking about like his skin. I'm just talking about like the the exposure overall. Just because like again, we're not doing like flash photography. We don't have like filler lights. Like this is just the room, so we want to make him pop out from the photo as much as possible, and he's already doing. He's already well exposed, but we're just gonna adjust just a little bit more, just a little bit more right there. I think that's perfect. I try not to like, you know, here you could really make it bright, right? I try not to do all that because like that could get really grainy and really like just messy. We want a clean, clean, clean photo, right? So that's why I try not to use this as much because like compensating for bad exposure brings a lot of noise, a lot of grain, and you don't want that in your photos. Or maybe you do. Maybe it's a stylistic choice, but in this case, I do not want that. So I added that, and the contrast. I think I'm just gonna leave the contrast alone. I think we added a good amount of contrast, and we're still gonna add a little bit more using the next set of tools, which is right underneath the tone panel. Right, we're gonna go into presence now. Um, I'd be lying to you guys if I told you that I knew the technicality of what texture and clarity does. From what I see with my eyes, it just makes like it just like gives more structure, like more detail to the photo. You guys can judge for yourself. So like, watch when I turn up the texture thing. Watch. Like you just see like more of the the detail on his head and his face and whatnot. Give me a second because this is about to go off and I don't want it to go off. Okay, cool. Um, and then like if I reset that to 0, it smooths it out again. It almost looks blurry now because like it added so much quote unquote texture, right? And then same thing with clarity. Uh, bring it all the way up and see what it does. I don't even know what that is, bro. So use it to your discretion. Uh, don't overdo it. Don't try to overdo it. I always like add a little bit and then like add a little bit of texture as well. Yo, this photo almost looks blurry now. It kind of is blurry, honestly. Um, but yeah, that's why we're not gonna use it for the photo, like to post it. Um, okay, cool. So we added a little bit of texture. We added a little bit of clarity. Um, and then the next stop is dehaze. Again, another tool that I kind of know what it does, but visually, like I don't know the technicality of it. It just looks like another contrast slider to me. So yeah, I'll read up on it more and let you guys know later on Instagram or something. But let's see what it does. It hazes, I guess, and then this dehazes it. So again, use it to your discretion. I'm just gonna use it for contrast in this case. So right there, a little bit. Okay, cool. So now we've touched the white balance, we've touched the tone, we've touched the presence, right? Let's do a before and after again. Before, after, before, after. It's like the photo is like, really just starting to, pop out and, it doesn't look flat anymore, right? So then we can adjust the vibrance and the saturation to taste. It's like when you're cooking, right? When you start adding salt, you don't just throw in a cup of salt, right? You don't throw in a spoon of salt, right? Little by little, little by little, and then you start tasting. You start tasting, right? Good thing here that you don't gotta taste anything. You just look with your eyes, and you can always undo it, right? So again, like I just like to bring it up, and then like once he starts looking like a carrot, then I bring it down to taste, which is good there. And same thing with saturation. Once he starts looking like a carrot, I just start bringing it down, bringing it down, bringing it down. Cool. And I think we have a nice photo here. Like if I do before and after. I think that's a great photo, right? Granted, we could have gotten a better angle. Maybe we could have used a faster shutter speed so it doesn't look blurry. But this is a good photo. Now, what I like to do as well, this is a little bit of a cheat code. Once I have, a good, a good amount of settings dialed in to one picture, I start looking for pictures that are around the same area of this photo, right? And I get to copy these settings and paste them into those other photos. That way I'm saving a lot of time and I'm not like moving each slider um, one by one, you know? So right here in the bottom left, you're gonna see a copy and paste button. So I'm gonna hit copy here. You're gonna see a window pop up. Here you're gonna be able to select or deselect the settings that you want to copy. I'm just gonna leave it as is for now, and just press copy. And then I start looking for other photos that are in the same space. So for example, uh, the next picture, right? I don't really like that one. Let's start looking for a photo that I actually want to post, right? This is almost good. If the shutter speed was faster, we could have gotten a sharp hand here. Yeah, this is almost good, but no. Let's start looking for a photo. This is good. He's looking to the side. He's like, am I right or am I wrong? Right? So let's use this. Paste. Now, we are on the right path, right? Like his jacket is popping out, his shirt is popping out. Now the problem here is just that he's a little too dark on his face, or a little too unexposed on his face is what I meant to say. So how do we fix that? Again, we're just gonna come up to our basic tools, right? And we're gonna start adjusting. I guess this part would be the shadows, right? So the shadows are brought down, so we're gonna bring them up actually, and then his face starts popping out just a little bit, right? We're gonna start bringing the blacks up a little bit, right? And his face starts popping out even more, right? There's another way to do this though. So let's leave the blacks a little bit more like this, right? Okay, cool. A little too much right there. That's perfect right there. There's another way of doing this. We can come to the tone curve right here. So once we finish with this, right, let's close the basic, right? That way it's not just, drop down menu after drop down menu. We open the tone curve menu, right? So this is going to open up a graph, right? And basically this graph is a reflection of this histogram, and obviously to your right is your highlights and to your left is your shadows. Okay, so the good thing about Lightroom is that there's this button right here called the adjust and tone. Basically, like you get to adjust by dragging in the photo, right? So if I click this button right here, let me click it. Okay, nope, hold on. Okay, I clicked it. You're gonna see like a little crosshairs right there. You're gonna click on the spot of the photo that you want to, adjust the exposure to, and you're gonna click and drag either up or down. All right. So we're gonna click right here because we want that part of the photo to shine a little bit more. So we're gonna click and then drag up to brighten it up, or down to make it darker, right? But in this case, we want to brighten it up, right? So a little bit more, a little too much, right there. Okay, so we have now properly exposed his face, and this is a great photo, right? Before, after, before, after, before, after. See? And that's it, right? Then you go ahead and copy that again, right? If you want to, you start looking for a different photo, right? In the same, again, remember, it has to be in the same spot. This is a big no-no because you're chopping off his arm here. But it's fine. We'll find a different photo. Again, if the shutter speed was a bit faster, we could have captured that hand, like, really. But let me see. I know there's a photo here that I like. Okay, so this one is already edited, if you can see. It's already processed. But look at the before, after. Before, after. Look, this was a good moment because, like, he stood still enough for the photo, like, to come out sharp or somewhat sharp in all throughout his body. and you can see the detail on the sweat, and like this is a really good photo. This is probably the photo of the event, to be honest, and perfectly like you have the logo here, like um without having to Photoshop it, which is kind of cool. But this is a really, really, really good photo, right? And again, you see this histogram again, like it's basically saying that it's not exposed properly, which to me it seems alright. You could see that I only added uh 0.03 of exposure. I don't know if that's not good exposure, then I don't know what is. Um, so let's go for another one. Okay, let's just use this as another example. Let's paste the settings, see what it brings us to. That's awesome, right? Let's copy and paste these settings now. Copy. Let's go to that other photo again. Paste. Let's see what that does. It makes it dark. So sometimes it doesn't work, right? So all you gotta do is just hit this reset button right here. Boom, and you're reset, right? Let's do here. Let's do this one. Just in case. I don't really like this photo, but let's see. Again, it just makes it dark. The colors look good though. It's just dark. So we just start adjusting, right? We start bringing the shadows up a little bit more, the highlights maybe even, right? The blacks maybe even just a little bit, and then just a little bit of exposure. Oh, too much. Too much. Bring it up, right there. To me, that's perfect, right? The only thing is that it's crooked and it's kind of out of focus too. Well, it's not out of focus; it's just this motion blur. But yeah, and that's what you would do for every photo, right? For example, there's other parts of the service where the photographer took pictures of like the people in the congregation. So for example, you would here you'd grab this photo, right? And you would adjust your settings towards that. So let's again make the blacks black, whites to whites. Bring up the shadows a little bit to make the photo brighter. And the highlights a little bit more too. Right? Let's do a little bit of exposure though now. That's right there. That's fine to me. That's fine to me. A little bit of texture, a little bit of clarity. Right there. Let's see what the no, I don't want that dehaze right there. I want it right there. Yep. Vibrance just a little bit, or add all the way until like okay. See, like even this is not even that bad, but like sometimes in other parts of the photo, like here it turns yellow, she kind of turns orange, so like we just dial it back, right? And then saturation, same thing, so like dial it back, cool. Voila, right? Like it's a good starting point now, where you start you can start posting these pictures that don't look flat, you know. And these are the benefits of shooting raw, you know, versus JPEG, where you know a lot of that color correction and a lot of that detail is already like baked into the photo, and you won't be able to manipulate it to the full extent that you would be able to with a raw file. So, but I'll talk about that in a separate video as well. So, this is just like getting you started with Lightroom. Obviously, to enjoy the, let me switch this thing. Okay. Obviously, to enjoy the maximum benefits of, you know, Lightroom and Photoshop and all of the Adobe, suite, you want to make sure that your camera is set to RAW. The image file, or what do they call it? Yeah, I think it's image file or something like that. You want to make sure it's set to RAW. For Nikon cameras, it's NEF files, or at least that one is. I don't know about the new ones. This is a 15-year-old camera, so um, I know we do NEFs. I know Canon is now on CR3, right? This is CR3, right? And this is shot on a EOS M50, so there's probably a CR4, to be honest, but this is CR3. That's their raw file. Sony, I'm not too familiar with their raw files, honestly. But point is that you want to set your camera to RAW, right? That way, you get to, really manipulate these details and, not lose quality, right? Or not lose as much quality, right? So, just to like quickly summarize, you open Lightroom, you go into library, right? All right. You hit import in the bottom left. Awesome. You select your source where your photos are located, right? You select all your photos that you want to bring in, and then you hit import in the bottom right, right? You wait for it to import all your photos, and then it's going to bring you here to the library screen again, and then you hit W, or you could just go with your mouse on the develop tool, on the develop tab, I'm sorry, and then start editing or start rating. I like to rate my photos first. That way I know that every photo that I'm going to edit is going to be posted, right? And then filter, off with the stars. Yeah. I mean, this is a really this is like a crash course, honestly. I don't know how long this recording is. I think it's like 40 minutes. This thing doesn't even have a timer. But I think it's around 40 minutes because I did set a timer for 30 minutes. Oh, yeah, 42 minutes. So I'm sorry if it's a little extensive or extended. I don't know the right word. But it is a crash course, and it is designed for you guys to just like get on Lightroom ASAP and start editing. I'll probably make a similar video to the Lightroom for iPad. There's an iPad app as well, and also an iPhone app. So I'll probably do something similar as well. Any questions? Any recommendations? Maybe I got something wrong, and you want to correct me. By all means, I'm here to learn as well. So the comments are wide open for that. If not, then I hope this was of a blessing, and I hope that I get to see you guys edit your pictures and your photos of either for your church, for yourself, and have fun with it. I think the Adobe website has like a photographer's plan for like $20 a month or 25. I don't know. Somebody correct me in the comments, but like they have a photographer's plan for like 20 or $25 a month, and you get Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom. Like, what else do you need as a photographer? Like, that's awesome. We personally have the suite, so like it's like I think it's $60 a month, and we have all the apps, which is awesome because we use Premiere, we use Photoshop, Lightroom. We're starting getting into Illustrator and After Effects, so that's gonna be fun. But other than that, like this is your crash course into Lightroom. I hope this was helpful, and I hope to see your edits very, very soon. All right. So God bless, guys. I'm Ulysses from Olam Productions, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Adios. How do you stop this?